Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update.
Money FM 89.3, you're with Lindley on Industry Insight. Now, the URA Draft Master Plan 2025 is out, and with it, Singapore's latest roadmap for urban growth, climate resilience, and livability. But beneath the greenery and long-term vision lies a bigger conversation for the property sector. Where are the next value nodes? What will the post-airbase landscape look like in 2030 and beyond? And how should investors and developers read between the lines? So today we're asking, what should the industry really be paying attention to in this latest master plan? Joining us is Leonard Tay, Head of Research at Knight Frank Singapore. Leonard brings sharp data-backed insights into land use planning, property value, and the long-term evolution of our built environment. Leonard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Lindy.
Now, let's start with the top line reading. When you look at the Draft Master Plan 2025, what jumps out to you immediately? Is there a shift in tone or strategy from the 2019 version?
The master plan typically caters to drive the economy in Singapore. So these are work locations, in the form of offices as well as industries. But it's also where we live. And principally, historically, that it's always been just these two drivers being the main focus of the master plan. But over the past few master plans, there are other factors that have crept in. And the latest master plan in particular is this importance placed on climate protecting the whole of Singapore in terms of planning so that we future-proof our urban landscape against all sorts of inclement weather, whether it's already in our faces or whether it might be something that we have to predict or to prepare for in the future, like rising sea levels.
Okay, so you're talking more about climate resilience and greening. Can you perhaps elaborate on the integrated planning part of things?
So, firstly, the Long Island has been announced some time ago. This is part of coastal protection. But as part of the infrastructural bill, there are also opportunities to put residential and all sorts of other living as well as recreational spaces in the process of protecting the coastline. The greening of Singapore overall, what started off in previous master plans as just park connectors and having green lungs all over the island, I think this has become more in our faces, and it's become no longer a good to have, but a must-have in almost every location, whether it be for employment zones or residential zones.
It's almost as if URA is stress testing the city's future readiness, right?
Yeah, I think they are prepping the future readiness of Singapore, island Singapore.
Okay. Now let's talk about what feels like the biggest long-term unlock, the relocation of Paya Lebar Airbase. 800 hectares is a huge chunk of land. What's your take on the scale and opportunity of this?
So 800 hectares, no pun, or rather pun intended, gives a long runway for planners, developers, to slowly grow that up from ground level into making that a whole. It won't come off overnight. So there's a chance over time, and this will soak up Singapore's demand for all sorts of users, especially residential, retail, and recreational over maybe 10, 20 years or so. I think it will meet most of our living needs and recreational needs. The spin-off to that also is without the height restrictions in and around what is now Paya Lebar Airbase, I guess there's opportunity for existing land plots in and around the area, especially in the east, that's in the flight path of Paya Lebar Airbase, to have their plot ratios increased. So usually in the past, when there's an enhancement because of increased plot ratios, the en-bloc opportunity is enhanced also. And this gives further incentive to rejuvenate or to renew older sites.
Okay. So certainly it opens up entirely new development possibilities. But as someone living in the East, I'm not quite sure I'm ready for the skyline to be changed. Now, would it be fair to say that even though this kicks in only post-2030, landowners or developers nearby, say in McPherson, Bartley or Hougang should already be reviewing their asset strategy?
Well, post-2030 is still some time away, and I don't think right now the government has not really posted any increases in the areas in and around Paya Lebar Airbase as yet. So I think it's a future consideration that they should just keep on the back of their minds.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other headline grabber to me is the green push. We're talking 25 new parks, over 50 kilometers of park connectors, and biodiversity corridors like the one through Kranji. But from a property point of view, how real is the value impact of this?
It's difficult to measure park in terms of dollars and cents because it should be free to use for everyone. It's public space, so it's a good that is, I guess, not for profit. Mm-hmm. But if we have green arteries throughout the island, I think it enhances the quality of life for the ordinary resident. And this cuts across all socio-income brackets, I think. So young and old, low, middle, high income, it's there for everyone to enjoy. And that's the way it should be, I guess. Mm. And at the same time, it also brings a certain standard of life in our urban environment. It's not just highly stressed kind of concrete jungle pressure cooker that we're living in.
Okay. Now, in terms of ESG, I'm just thinking, are we seeing institutional buyers place more weight on such factors?
Yes, I think they are. And I think this is also spinning off into individual developments. There is a greater call for end users, whether they be residents who have bought units within a particular development, or there'll be whether it's office users in big commercial complex, is a growing awareness and hence growing demand or desire for greening of concrete, regardless of what type of building use we have in our urban landscape.
Interesting. It feels like we're moving from green as nice to have to green as must built into the financial model. Now, I want to ask what's not in the draft, because sometimes that's just as telling. Were there any omissions or silences that perhaps caught your attention?
No, I think this is a pretty good draft. It's all-encompassing. It keeps to the traditional planning for living and working demands, and it also has a greater contribution of the play factor compared to earlier master plans when, Singapore was just a developing nation. I think of note is the growth stories, the areas where the government has designated a growth story, especially in the fringe areas. For example, Bishan, Greater One North, which is kind of annexed to One North Business Park. So there is a kind of centrality where it's in fairly well-trafficked, popular areas rather than places in the far east or west.
Okay. So anything to read between the lines, maybe infrastructural breadcrumbs or deferred zoning signals?
I think it's been quite explicit. One thing does strike me is the government is trying to think of out-of-the-box solutions. That means it's not just surface level, but, considering things that are underground. We don't have a big land mass, so we just have to make use of everything we can. So that's thinking beyond just ground level or above ground to include underground now. Increasingly, I think we have to do so now.
Okay. Before we let you go, let's wrap with your advice to different parts of the ecosystem. If I were a developer, what should I be doing now before the master plan is finalized?
I think developers just keep their eyes open on the bigger emerging story. And as a result, whenever government land sales lists announced or when collective sales sites are offered, they just tie this into how this can evoke a growth story for the locality that they are shortlisting.
And if I'm a mid to long-term investor, someone perhaps looking beyond 2025 into the 2030 horizon, where should I be focusing?
So I think the future-proofing element has a strong play here because investors right now in today's world where uncertainty is growing and almost on a daily basis we have some kind of destabilization with bad news from some part of the world or other, I think the master plan is kind of proof that Singapore is determined to keep not only its physical but its human landscape as stable as possible. And in a time of uncertainty, I think stability is that blue chip card for investors who are scouring the world for a place, a kind of safe haven, a safe harbor where their investment will not be threatened. There is some kind of security.
Okay. So I guess this draft plan really gives you a strong directional map, I suppose.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Thank you so much for your insights, Leonard. From post-airbase potential to green corridors becoming financial corridors, I think this draft master plan isn't just about shaping spaces. It's definitely about unlocking value and managing risk as well and staying ahead of where Singapore is headed. Big thank you to you, Leonard Tay, Head of Research at Knight Frank Singapore.
Thanks so much, Lindy.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.